We'll stay with us and look at market sentiment as Americans head to the poll today. Now, while, of course, today is election day, nearly 80 million Americans have already cast their ballots, and with some polls predicting that it may be too close to call, there are concerns that this may lead to some uncertainty when it comes to investors. And SABC News economics editor Tshepo Mongoai is following the elections and joins us now in studio. Tshepo, there's been a lot that has been said, especially when it comes to the polls and what the polls have been telling us about how these candidates are likely to perform. Of course, some saying that this may not be a true reflection, but what has been the reaction of the markets to these polls?
There is a lot of uncertainty in the markets, and I think investors are really struggling. Remember, markets want certainty in order to decide on the way forward. And clearly it looks like the financial markets did not really price in this well. So you're more likely to see that after the outcome of this election, markets could go other way, trying to really digest what it means for the outcome of this particular elections. And what we've seen generally, for example, in the emerging markets like South Africa, the all-share index has been up marginally, I think at around 86,400. But what's telling is the fact that if you look at your resources and your mining stocks, those ones are up. And that tells you there is a lot of risk aversion that is still in the market. So the people are concerned, and they are going into the so-called safe havens so that they could actually determine and decide what way to take once they know exactly what is going on. The dollar, for example, has really been under pressure among many against other currencies because there is a lot of money leaving the US. And one can't really make sense of that, because usually when there's a risk aversion, money always goes back to the US, but we are seeing the opposite of that happening. And of course, the main concern is markets don't know who is going to win. It's a fact. And it's a very tight race. So that's a bit of a concern.
And it's been described by some as quite an unusual election, whether you'll get a second term for Donald Trump or you're going to get the first female president for America. But some are saying that whether it's Trump or Harris who wins, there are going to be serious implications, for example, tax or even trade policy.
Yeah, the issue of tariffs, I think, is one that the markets is actually concerned about. Of course, depending who you're talking to, there are those who think that the American economy must be protected so that certain sectors that have suffered for quite some time are rejuvenated. You look at, for example, the clothing industry in the US. 97% of the clothing in the US are imported. And if you are going to impose tariffs on such, there's no doubt that is going to be inflationary. The market's already priced in several rate cuts. In fact, they're saying next year we could see over 90 to 100 basis points in interest rates, with inflation showing that it's cooling. But if the picture changed and those tariffs are imposed, you could see inflation starting to be a major concern. And that's really the reason that many are concerned about. But Trump has said that he's going to cut the taxes in order to boost this economic activity and ensure that these companies are able to grow. And there are those who are, of course, welcoming that move, that it will be quite crucial for the U.S. economy. But we all know that that is likely also to trigger a trade war. I mean, we've seen it in 2017 with China. In fact, China did not back down. They became quite aggressive in their approach. their economy is based on exports, and they want to position it in that way.
And you listen to a Trump who is not apologetic because he says that should he win, he's definitely going back to putting America first. It doesn't matter who says what when it comes to ensuring that growing the economy, you know, they're thinking whether or not you bring other players on board, but for him, the priority is Americans.
But that also speaks to the structure of the economy. Do they have enough manpower in order to work in certain sectors? Is there willingness among Americans to do certain jobs? The cost of labor. So there are a lot of questions that might prove to be quite problematic in implementing such a move. There are certain advantages that countries like China are enjoying in order to be able to export, and there might be some shortcomings in the US in fulfilling that particular agenda, and that's really the question that we really need to ask. There are advantages and disadvantages in that particular approach, and of course, the world it's a global community, and there's a lot of interconnectedness that is there, and there will be some repercussions either way.
And especially because he finds himself right now with a Hispanic vote that is also said to be quite critical in this election. But Tshepo, let's see what happens, because as you say, markets, the last thing they want is uncertainty. So let's see what happens in the next couple of hours. That's my colleague, the SABC News Economics editor, Tshepo Mongoai.